Good morning students. In last lecture we have studied about the definition of food chemistry, composition of food as well as the definition of water in food. So in today's lecture we will be studying about the structure of water, the structure of ice, which are the different types of water in food. We are going to study about the sorption phenomenon, and also we are going to study about the relationship between the water activity and how it's affect packaging as well as the shelf life of the food. So let us begin with the structure of water. The water molecule consists of an oxygen atom which is covalently bonded to two hydrogen atoms. The 2OH bond forms an angle of 105 degree, and because the oxygen is having more number of valence electron and it is considered to be electronegative than hydrogen, and so it tends to attract the electron of the covalent bond. So as a result, there is a partial negative charge at the oxygen end and a partial positive charge at each hydrogen end. So below you can see the diagram and also the angle between the two OH bond. The opposite charge on the water, that is partial negative on oxygen and partial positive charge on hydrogen, helps in the formation of intermolecular hydrogen bond between two water molecules, and you can see the oxygen is having 6 valence electrons, 4 at top and 1 each at on the other side of the hydrogen. So hydrogen is having 1 valence electron each, because of which bond will be formed. The separation of partial charges together with the shape of water molecule will make water a polar molecule, and the opposite partial charges between the neighboring water molecule tend to attract each other, and this weak electrostatic attraction between two water molecules is known as hydrogen bond and responsible for the unusual physical properties of water. So below you can see correlated configuration, that is how two water molecules are attached to each other with the help of loose hydrogen bond, which is represented with the dashed lines, whereas the bond between hydrogen and oxygen is represented with straight lines. And in the second picture you can see whenever there is agitation or whenever you apply heat, the loose bond between two water molecules will break and the water molecule will be converted into steam. So each separate water molecules are shown in the picture too. If they ask you structure of water, you can draw the first picture as well as you can explain and draw the second pictures also. Coming to structure of ice, ice is a crystalline form of water, and ice at normal condition will take hexagonal form. Hexagonal means the one with the having 6 sides. So if crystallized at atmospheric pressure, but condenses to cubic form if the temperature is very low. So as you can see in the picture below, each oxygen atom is tetrahedrally surrounded by 4 hydrogen atoms, that is on 4 sides of oxygen the hydrogen will be arranged. The 3-dimensional structure of ice is represented as given below down. So out of 4 hydrogen atom which is surrounding oxygen, 2 is represented in the diagram as covalent bond, and the remaining 2 hydrogens are attached as hydrogen bonds. The structure also contains the wide holes that can hold molecule of appropriate size interstitially. So each oxygen atom is surrounded by 4 other oxygen atoms at a distance of 276 picometer. Now the vacant space in the 3-dimensional structure are known as interstitial sites, and these are with compatible size atoms can exist in these spaces. The common structure of ice is a tetrahedral arrangement. The rigid hydrogen bond in ice forms an open network which causes the solid form of water to have less density than the liquid form. And you have to note the point that ice will reach its highest density at about 4 degrees Celsius, because between 4 degrees Celsius and 0 degrees Celsius the density gradually decreases as the hydrogen bond begins to form a network which is characterized by hexagonal structure with open spaces in the middle of the hexagon. So you can observe the structure of ice. It can be drawn in this way also, where the red colored ball represents the oxygen and the yellow colored ball represents the hydrogen, and you can see in between two water molecules the bond is represented by the dashed lines. This picture will give you detailed idea about how the oxygen and hydrogen are systematically arranged in a hexagonal shape in ice, whereas in water how randomly these are arranged. So you can refer the picture which is given here or in the previous slide for the diagram if the structure of ice or water is asked. Coming to the water concept, which we already discussed in the previous lecture. So water, as you know, it is most abundant component of food and it is a major controlling factor in microbial spoilage. Why? Because in case of fruits and vegetable, if you consider, they'll be perishable, that is they are ready to spoil and they are having more moisture, and because of which they are more susceptible to the spoilage. Whereas in case of cereals and pulses, the moisture content will be less, the food product is dry, and hence you can keep them for a longer period of time compared to your fruits and vegetables. Why? Because water content will be less and therefore less water is available for the microbes to attack and to spoil it. So water is very essential constituent of any of the food, since it will decide whether the food is going to spoil or not. This water will also contributes to the chemical and physical stability, as you know. So if the water content is more, the food can be fluffy, juicy, tendery and all. If the water content is less, the food will be very dry, it will be cheap, it will be rough, etc. So this water content of the food is defined as water activity. So water activity is nothing but it is the free form of water which is available for the microorganisms or for the any kind of chemical reactions. So the water in the food can be of different types. So let us check which are the different forms. So water exists in three forms in food: free water, adsorbed water, make a note, it's not absorbed, it's adsorbed water, and the third one is bound water. So chemically each form of water is same, but difference exists in physical chemical condition in which water can exist. So in all the form, that is free form, adsorbed form and bound form, the water is present as H2O itself, but it depends on the physical and the chemical condition of the food in which water is present. So the form in which water occurs in food will determine the physical property of the food. So in which form the water will be present, that will decide the physical property of the food. For example, in case of fluid milk and apple, the amount of water present is same, but they have different physical structure. So in case of fluid milk, it is in the liquid state, whereas in case of apple, it is in the solid form. ಫ್ಲೂಯಿಡ್ ಮಿಲ್ಕಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ವಾಟರ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ಆ್ಯಪಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಸಾಲಿಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ವಾಟರ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಟ್ರ್ಯಾಪ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ food molecules, that is inside the apple molecule. So as a result you will think that the content of water is less compared to fluid milk, but actually both the fluid milk and the apple will have same amount of water. Now let us see about one by one type of water. So free water, it is most water in food is called as free water, and it is lightly entrapped and therefore easily pressed from food. So free water andre it is not bound to any of the food component, that is it is not attached to any of protein or carbohydrate, so it is easily available for the microorganisms to act and also for other chemical reactions. So this water can be easily removed just by pressing the food items, and it acts as a dispersing agent and solvent, and it can be removed by drying the food. And this water can be easily removed if you dry the food products, and this water can be easily removed as it is not attached to any of the food component. So this free water is also called as unbound water, is mainly responsible for food stability. That is ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫುಡ್ ಒಂದೇ ಥರ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ವಾಟರ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ವಾಟರ್ ಫ್ರೀ ವಾಟರ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಇದನ್ನು ನೀವು ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿ ಇಟ್ಟರೆ ಅದು ಎನ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟಿಗೆ ಇವಾಪರೇಟ್ ಆಗೋ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಇದನ್ನು ನೀವು ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಫುಡ್ ಐಟಮನ್ನು ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಈ ಅನ್ಬೌಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಇದನ್ನು ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ನಾವು ತೆಗಿಬಹುದು. Now second type of water is adsorbed water. So this water is in layer through intermolecular hydrogen bond around hydrophilic food molecules. So hydrophilic means, as you know, it is the one which loves the water. So this water will be found associated with any molecule which is hydrophilic. So they are the water which is held tightly in cell wall or protoplasm and is held tightly to protein. So they will be absorbed alva, just they will be found attached to the cell wall or around the protein of the food molecule. The next type of water is bound water, and it is the one which remains unfrozen at temperature below 0 degrees Celsius and usually up to minus 20 degrees Celsius. And this is the amount of water in a food which is unavailable as a solvent, and the amount of unfreezable water based on the protein content may vary from one food to another. So this is the type of water which are very tightly attached to the food components, and they are not easily available for microbial growth as well as chemical reactions. So ಈ ವಾಟರ್ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಕೂಡ ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಇದು ಫುಡ್ ಕಾಂಪೊನೆಂಟ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಫುಡ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಹೊರಗೆ ತೆಗಿಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಈವನ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಕೀಪ್ it outside also, this bound water will not be evaporated as it is attached to the food component. And this bound water depends on the amount of protein which is present in a food. For example, about 8 to 10% of total water in animal tissue is unavailable for ice formation. Egg white, egg yolk, meat and fish all contain approximately 0.4 grams of unfreezable water per gram of dry protein. So most fruits and vegetables will contain less than 6% unfreezable water. Why? Because the amount of protein is less in fruits, whereas in case of animal tissues around 8 to 10% bound water is there because it is having more amount of protein. Okay, so that is about the different forms of water. So next we are going to study about the water activity. So this concept is also repeated in food preservation paper, which is same. Okay, both the concepts are same. There we are relating water activity with the food spoilage. Here we are going to relate it with the food preservation and the shelf life. So already we have studied that the water in a food can be free water, bound water and adsorbed water, and total water is not equal to free water. So total water is nothing but free water plus adsorbed water plus bound water, and when it comes to water activity we are concerned more about the free water or unbound water. So water activity is the measure of available free water molecule to enter into microbial, enzymatic or chemical reactions, nothing but. So when we are speaking about water activity, it is mainly about the free water which is available for the microorganisms or which is available for the chemical reactions. So water activity can also be defined as it is the expression of reactivity of water in food, and it is represented by the symbol AW, and the water availability or water activity will determine the shelf life of a product. So water activity does not have any unit, and water activity of food will range from 0 to 1, and water activity of pure distilled water is always 1 because there is no food component which can bind to water, and as a result water activity of pure water is always 1. Now regarding the forms of water, the bound water is inversely related to water activity. That is, if bound water is not available for microorganisms, so it is as the bound water increases, the water activity decreases. And as free water increases or as unbound water increases, the water activity also increases. Because if free water is more water is available for the microorganism, and hence the activity of water increases, therefore water activity also increases. So water activity is calculated as P by P naught, where P is vapor pressure of water above food sample and P naught is vapor pressure of pure water, which is 1. Now when we are saying vapor pressure of water above food, it is nothing but free water, because bound water will not escape from the food as a vapor form. So only free water will be exerting pressure on the food, which will be considered for calculation. Water activity can also be measured by another formula, that is AW equals to ERH divided by 100. ERH is nothing but equilibrium relative humidity, which is nothing but relative humidity of the air surrounding the food, at which the product will neither gain or lose its natural moisture and is in equilibrium with the environment. So this formula is mainly used to find or to measure the water activity when we are processing any kind of food product. The next concept which we are going to study is sorption phenomenon. Now what is this sorption phenomenon? So sorption isotherm of a product describes its ability to absorb or to release the water vapor from or into the surrounding atmosphere until an equilibrium state is reached. So sorption phenomenon ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟನ್ನು ನೀವು ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇಟ್ಟಾಗ ಅದು ಒಂದೇ ವಾಟರ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟನ್ನು ಲೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ವಾಟರನ್ನು ಹೊರಗಿನ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಿಂದ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವಾಗಿನ ತನಕ ಅಂದರೆ ಈಕ್ವಿಲಿಬ್ರಿಯಂ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗೋ ತನಕ. ಸೊ ಈ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸನ್ನು ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಫಿನಾಮಿನಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಫಿನಾಮಿನನ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಐಸೋಟರ್ಮ್, and it is very powerful tool for predicting and extending the shelf life of a product. ಸೊ ಈ ಫಿನಾಮಿನನ್ನ ನಾವು ಯಾಕೆ ಕಲಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಂದರೆ, ಸೊ ನಮಗೆ ಈಕ್ವಿಲಿಬ್ರಿಯಂ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾದರೆ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ದ ಶೆಲ್ಫ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಯಾವ ಪಾಯಿಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಈಕ್ವಿಲಿಬ್ರಿಯಂ ಸ್ಟೇಟಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೋ, ಯಾವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಸೇಫ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೋ, ಆಗ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಶೆಲ್ಫ್ ಲೈಫನ್ನು ಅಚೀವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಅಸ್ ಟು ಫೈಂಡ್ ದ ಕ್ರಿಟಿಕಲ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ವೇರ್ changes like caking, clumping and loss of texture will occur. So if we find out the sorption phenomenon and if we find out this point, we can increase the shelf life by reducing any undesirable changes in the food texture. So not only that, this moisture sorption isotherm will help to predict how the product will respond to ingredient and formulation changes. So sorption isotherm ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಆಗ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ಇಂಗ್ರೀಡಿಯೆಂಟ್ ಆ್ಯಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತು ಯಾವ ಥರ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರೆಡಿಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. Here you can see the sorption phenomenon is explained with the help of a graph where the perpendicular line will show the moisture content of the product surrounding, as well as the parallel line will show the water activity. So water activity is related to moisture content in a non-linear relationship known as moisture sorption isotherm curve. Nothing but ಈ ಲೈನ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಐಸೋಥರ್ಮ್ ಕರ್ವ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ. ದಿಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗಿವ್ ಅಸ್ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್ ಆಸ್ ದ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್. So the relationship between water content and water activity is indicated by the sorption isotherm of a food. So the plotting of uptake termed adsorption or the loss of water termed desorption provides a record of water activity of a particular food at a particular temperature over varying level of humidity in the environment. ಈ ಗ್ರಾಫಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋದ ಹಾಗೆ ಫುಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಐದರ್ ಟೇಕ್ ದ ವಾಟರ್, that is nothing but adsorption, or it can leave the water vapor into the surrounding, nothing but desorption. So ಒಂದು ಫುಡ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಎಟ್ ಅ ಗಿವನ್ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್, ಎಟ್ ಅ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದೇ ವಾಟರ್ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲನ್ನು ಫುಡ್ಡಿಂದ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ವಾಟರ್ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲನ್ನು ಫುಡ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಎಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದು ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಅಪಾನ್ ದ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಮತ್ತು ಹ್ಯುಮಿಡಿಟಿ ವಿಚ್ ಈಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸರೌಂಡಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಹೈಗ್ರೋಸ್ಕೋಪಿಕ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್, ಯಾವುದೇ ನೀರನ್ನು ಎಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಪದಾರ್ಥ ಆಗಿದ್ದರೆ ಆಗ ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಹೊರಗಡೆ ನೀರಿನ ಅಂಶ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಆ ಫುಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಡ್ರೈ ಇದ್ದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಫುಡ್ ನೀರನ್ನು ಎಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ, ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ಸೊ ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಫುಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ತುಂಬ ಮಾಯಿಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದರೆ, ಹೊರಗಿನ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಡ್ರೈ ಆಗಿದ್ದರೆ ಆಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಫುಡ್ಡಿಂದ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇವಾಪರೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್. ಸೊ based upon the type of food what you are keeping and also the temperature. So temperature ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ, ಹೊರಗಡೆನ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಆಗ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಫುಡ್ಡಿಂದ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹೊರಗಡೆದು ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಫುಡ್ಡಿಂದ ವಾಟರ್ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ ಎಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ, ಆಯಿತಾ. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಈ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಮತ್ತು ಡಿಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ಈಕ್ವಿಲಿಬ್ರಿಯಮ್ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ವೋ, ಈಕ್ವಿಲಿಬ್ರಿಯಮ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮತ್ತು ಫುಡ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದೇ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ವೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಈ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಮತ್ತು ಡಿಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಈ ಕರ್ವ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಕಲ್ ಒನ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಪ್ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಡ್ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಕಲ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಪ್ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಡಿಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಡಿಪೆಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಅಪಾನ್ ದ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್, ಹ್ಯುಮಿಡಿಟಿ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ವೆಲ್ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ದ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಫುಡ್. ಸೊ ಇದು ಫುಡ್ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಇದೆ, ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಮತ್ತು ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ದ ಪರ್ಫೆಕ್ಟ್. So here you can see as the moisture goes up, even the water activity also decreases. So 0.2 ಇದ್ದಾಗ 0.2 ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಇದೆ. ಅದೇ ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋದಾಗೆ ಒಂದೇ ನೀರು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಫುಡ್ಡಿಂದ ಅಥವಾ ನೀರು ಎಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಫಿನಾಮಿನಾ. So next we are going to study the relationship between shelf life as well as the water activity. So shelf life, you know that the time up to which the food is having all its desirable character, we call it shelf life of a food product. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಮ ಫುಡ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಉಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತೋ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಫುಡ್ಡಿನ ಶೆಲ್ಫ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಶೆಲ್ಫ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಫುಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೇನ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೌ ಬೆಟರ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಬಿಯಲ್ ಕಂಟ್ಯಾಮಿನೇಷನ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಗೂ ಶೆಲ್ಫ್ ಲೈಫಿಗೂ ಏನು ಸಂಬಂಧ ಅಂದರೆ, all the microorganisms will be very active at a particular water activity. ಸೊ ಇಷ್ಟು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ನೀರು ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಲೈವ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ದ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಗೋಸ್ ಡೌನ್, automatically the activity of microorganisms will be reduced, as well as some of undesirable chemical changes will also be reduced. And that is why by controlling the water activity we can increase the shelf life of our food product. So in the diagram you can see most of the bacteria and the mold yeast are very active around the water activity of 0.7 to 0.9. So if we reduce the water activity below 0.7 or 0.6, then all microbial growth can be inhibited. In the same way, if you can see, a non-enzymatic reaction is very high at the water activity level of 0.2 up to 0.8, and even the enzymatic activity is very high between 0.3 to 0.8 or 0.7. So if we reduce the water activity of the food product to 0.6 or below 0.2, even the undesirable changes which are caused because of enzymatic and non-enzymatic reaction can be reduced. In the same way, even lipid oxidation will be least when the water activity is 0.4. So by reducing the water activity of the food to below 0.1, we can reduce the lipid oxidation. So water activity has an important role in food preservation. That is, each microorganism has a critical water activity below which the growth cannot occur. For example, pathogenic microorganisms cannot grow at water activity below 0.86. Yeast and mold are tolerant and usually no growth occurs below 0.62. So water activity is important in food as it is a major factor in food spoilage and safety. So decreased water activity will retard the growth of microorganisms, slow enzyme catalyzed reaction, and retards non-enzymatic browning. So not only that, lipid oxidation rates are high in water activity values from a range of 0.3 to 0.4 to minimum at 0.8. So with water activity at 0.3, the product is most stable with respect to lipid oxidation, non-enzymatic browning, enzymatic activity, and the various microbial parameters. So as water activity increases towards the right, the probability of the food product deterioration increases. So food for decreasing water activity and thus improving the shelf life of food is by use of additives with high water capacity, nothing but humectants. So the shelf life of the food can be increased mainly by controlling the water activity in the food. And then how you can control the water activity? You know that water activity of the food is mainly because of the free water which is present or unbound water which is present. So if we make this free water only unavailable for the microorganisms, then easily we can prevent the spoilage, and thus we can increase the shelf life of the product. So there are two ways mainly through which you can increase the shelf life and reduce the water activity. So initially, first is by carrying out some of the unit operations like dehydration process or freezing process, wherein you can remove the free water present in the food. So if free water itself is not there means water activity will be automatically less and hence spoilage will be less. And the second option is converting this free water into bound water. How? By adding some of the substance like salt or sugar, so that the salt or sugar can trap the free water and convert it into a bound form, so that it is not available for the microorganisms or any kind of chemical reactions. So this graph is already explained. So once again go through this graph and note down the critical water activity point at which the various enzymatic, non-enzymatic reactions and various microorganisms will be active. So if we take our food below this water activity point, automatically our food shelf life will be increased, because less water will be available for any type of chemical reactions or any microorganisms for their activity. So next is water activity and packaging. Because water activity is a major factor influencing the keeping quality of number of food, it is obvious that packaging can do much to maintain optimal conditions for long storage life. So whichever food we are using, it will undergo sorption phenomenon as it is discussed earlier. That is, so ಯಾವುದೇ ಫುಡ್ಡನ್ನು ನೀವು ಇಟ್ಟರೂ ಕೂಡ ಐದರ್ ಅದು ವಾಟರ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಡಿಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಟು ಪ್ರಿವೆಂಟ್ ದ ಸಾಗಿ ನೇಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫುಡ್, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಅ proper way. So sorption isotherm plays an important role in the selection of packaging material. Hygroscopic products always have a steep sorption isotherm and reach the critical area of moisture content before reaching external climatic conditions. Such food have to be packed in a glass container with moisture proof seals or in watertight plastic thick PVC. ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೇ ಹೈಗ್ರೋಸ್ಕೋಪಿಕ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ನೀರನ್ನು ಎಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟನ್ನು ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಅದು ಹೊರಗಿನ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಬೇಗ ನೀರು ಎಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರು ವಾಟರ್ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ ಬ್ಯಾಗಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದು. ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ದರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಆ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರನ್ನು ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಅದರ ಡಿಸೈರೇಬಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ನ ಕಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, consider instant coffee where the critical area is about 50% RH. Under these conditions, the product cakes and loses its flowability. Other product might not be hygroscopic and no unflavorable reaction occur at normal condition of storage. Such product can be packed in polyethylene container. So for example, instant coffee is a dry product. ಸೊ ಆ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಇದು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದು ಬೇಗ ಹೊರಗಿಂದ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರನ್ನು ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾದಾಗ ಆ ಕಾಫಿ ಪೌಡರ್ ಅದರ ಕನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿ ಅಥವಾ ಡ್ರೈನೆಸ್ನ ಕಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಸೀಲ್ಡ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ ಅಥವಾ ಅಲ್ಯೂಮಿನಿಯಂ ಪ್ಯಾಕಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ಕಂಟೈನರಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಆ ಡ್ರೈ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಅದರ ಡ್ರೈ ನೇಚರನ್ನು ಕಾಪಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದು, ಅದರ ಶೆಲ್ಫ್ ಲೈಫನ್ನು ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅದೇ ಬೇರೆ ನಾನ್ ಹೈಗ್ರೋಸ್ಕೋಪಿಕ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಆದರೆ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೋ ಫಾರ್ ಏರ್ಟೈಟ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಎನಿವೇಸ್ ದ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ exchanged and the quality of the product won't be affected. So there are some foods where the equilibrium relative humidity is above that of external critical condition. The packaging material that serves the purpose of protecting the product from moisture loss. So this is the case with processed cheese and baked goods. So ಈ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಚೀಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಬೇಕಡ್ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಆದರೆ ಅದು ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರನ್ನು ಕಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಎನ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಡ್ರೈ ಇದ್ದು ಫುಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟೇ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಫುಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟಿಂದ ಮಾಯ್ಶ್ಚರ್ ಕಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏರ್ ಟೈಟ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂತ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಿಲಿಬ್ರಿಯಮ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಇಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ದ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫುಡ್. So one more example, if we take nothing but soup packet. Soup packet alli you will be having vegetables, that is the ready vegetables, and also the starch. So starch ಮತ್ತೆ ಫ್ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ವೆಜಿಟೇಬಲ್ಸ್ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಮಾಯ್ಶ್ಚರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗೋ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಈವನ್ ದ fruits, cut fruits which we are vegetables which we are using in the soup mixture has to be dehydrated, and even the starch which is used in the soup also should be dehydrated, so that there won't be any moisture exchange between the ingredients of the food, and our food will be safe and have long shelf life. So that is for today's lecturer. So in today's class we have studied in detail about the structure of water as well as ice. So this is very important. Water structure ಮತ್ತು ice structure ಎರಡನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಮಾಡಿ. Then we have studied about the types of water, nothing but the free water or unbound water, adsorbed water and the bound water. Free water which is freely available for microorganisms, and bound water which is attached to the food components and not available for microorganisms. Then we have studied about the water activity, nothing but the free water which is available for the microbial action or the chemical reaction. So remember, the water activity of the food is mainly because of the free water, not the bound water. Then we have studied about sorption phenomena. So sorption phenomena means in order to reach the equilibrium, any food item can either absorb water or dissolve water until it reaches the equilibrium at a given temperature over a period of time. Okay, so this sorption phenomena is explained with the help of moisture isotherm curve. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಫುಡ್ ಯಾವ ಥರ ವಾಟರನ್ನು ಎಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವ ಥರ ವಾಟರನ್ನು ಸರೌಂಡಿಂಗಿಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ we have studied. Then we have studied how the water activity and shelf life is related. So shelf life ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ನ ಸ್ಪಾಯ್ಲ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ತಡಿಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಯಾವ ಥರ ತಡಿಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ, ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ನ ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಲೆವೆಲನ್ನು ನಾವು ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಆಗ ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಆಗೋದು ತಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಶೆಲ್ಫ್ ಲೈಫನ್ನು ನಾವು ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ನಿನ ಕ್ರಿಟಿಕಲ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಆಗ ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯ ಎನ್ಸೈಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಬ್ರೌನಿಂಗ್ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಫುಡ್ಡಿನ ಡಿಸೈರೇಬಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದರ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಲೈಫನ್ನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಮತ್ತು ಸೊ ಫುಡ್ಡನ್ನು ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಟೇಕ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಫುಡ್. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಫುಡ್ ಡ್ರೈ ಆಗಿದ್ದರೆ ಆಗ ಅದರ ಮಾಯ್ಶ್ಚರ್ ಲಾಸನ್ನು ಮಾಯ್ಶ್ಚರ್ ಎಬ್ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ನ ತಡಿಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಫಾರ್ ಏರ್ ಟೈಟ್ ಪ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಫ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಮೋರ್ ಮಾಯ್ಶ್ಚರ್ ದೆನ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು take care that it should not lose the moisture into the environment. So that is for today's class. Thank you students. If you have any doubt you can ask me.